All right, everybody. This is Rob of Archangel Inc. And I have my co-host and fellow Archangel Inc. team member,
What is up, guys? Jordan here.
Jordan. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks for being here. So, everybody, this is Archangel Inc. Live number 3. We're continuing on. We're going to do our best to keep up the momentum and see what
3
we
weeks
can do.
in a row. I think it's great.
Yeah, we're doing well. So as last time, it looks like the technical issues were sorted out, and we were able to simultaneously broadcast on Facebook as well as YouTube. And so feel free to comment. Obviously, here I don't know how many people are going to be live, but eventually we'll find a regular time and we can start promoting it. But in any event, if you notice any technical issues, let us know. We'll, like I said, try and sort it out. Probably not this time, but next time. And so far, so good, though. It sounds like the playback has been pretty good. So hopefully, everybody who's able to watch has a good experience.
Yeah, and please let us know if you watching us. If you have any questions, Rob and I would just love to just talk about what you guys are interested in. The more we can help you, that's what we're here for. So just let us know. We'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're here to provide information, I guess, about Archangel Inc., but also some insight into the publishing world. And if there are topics that are pressing, things that are going on, happenings, or clarifications of what processes are like, or what companies are out there, or anything like that, we're happy to do our best to answer those. And if we don't know the answer, we'll look into it. You know, we have a modicum of experience doing this for several years now. And so we may be able to research and find a better answer than somebody who's just kind of starting out and may not know where to look and how to parse that information. So, Jordan, I had this idea based on last week that we can talk about book launch. Now, that's what you specialize in, but particularly in book launch sequencing. And so I want to kind of open the floor and give a big picture opportunity for you to speak to that. What is it? What is sequencing? Why does it matter for book launching? And what are some considerations to begin mulling over? So please take it from there.
Sure, I'm happy to talk big picture on that. Really, when it comes down to sequencing, it depends on your goals. Most likely, you want to get your book on Amazon and out there, but it depends on where you're at in this process. Now, you have to think of it kind of all together, and it can be very overwhelming. I know as a first-time author, I was extremely overwhelmed by all the questions that came up. How do I get my book on Amazon? Well, the book isn't even edited yet. Like, when do I start thinking about like the formatting stuff? And it can be really difficult. And for the major part, we take care of a lot of that at Archangel Inc. But then there's a lot of people that go a DIY route and they do it themselves and they think, okay, I can do this. I can figure this out. But even if you figure it out, sometimes that sequencing and that figuring all that out can be difficult. So, I mean, when it comes right down to it, we can just talk editing phase onto formatting. Rob, if you want to just
okay, yeah. So
there.
Okay, let's say you're a writer. You have a book. It's more or less edited. You're about ready to bring it out to the world, whether you've got a professional editor or you're self-editing and self-proofing and doing all of that. So you've got a manuscript and you're like, all right, so I want to make this available. I want to make it available for sale. What do I do? What am I thinking about at this point?
Yeah, so if you got your book edited, that's all good to go. And then you also have the formats that you need. Now, that's important to mention too. You want to make sure you have at least a Kindle edition format, which is a .mobi file. Okay. And you can even upload to Amazon with a .epub file as well. I've actually done that myself before.
So what are those, Mobi and EPUB? For folks who don't know what Mobi and EPUB are, let's talk about that.
Mobi is the very specific to Amazon Kindle. That's just a format that they use. That's what the book, if you upload your book, which you can do this, you can upload your book in Word doc format. Amazon will convert your file to a Mobi file. But it's the file that is readable by Kindles.
Okay, by like a Kindle device or a Kindle app for your iPad or phone or something. Okay. So and then both EPUB and Kindle and Mobi files are ebook formatted files. So if you would, Jordan, tell us a little bit about what that means. I mean, we've got a bunch of resources and maybe we can link to a few of those. Yeah. But big picture, what's the difference between like a Word file and an ebook formatted file?
So a Word file, you are going to have to follow a very strict set of guidelines to make sure that if you upload a Word file, it then is readable by Amazon's formatting thing. Sometimes you can get it right, and I think we even have some guides that we reference that you can write it in a Word document format. It does get complicated, and with the way things change on Amazon, sometimes I know that can change as well, based on what you have to put in there. It's definitely much easier. And what we do at Archangel Inc., what we recommend people do is to get it professionally formatted.
Yep.
And the difference is using a program like InDesign, or even some people that are really skilled with Microsoft Word and know exactly how to particularly format the book for Amazon. You can do that as well. But it's definitely easier when you go that route. Or, like we said before, if you want to take the time to learn it. But as far as sequencing goes, when you're thinking big picture, this is really important to get right, because if you plan out your dates and then you hit the time where you're like, okay, I hit my date where I'm going to upload, but then you potentially have file issues, it's going to set you back. And maybe you had already scheduled promotions, maybe you already had done some launch and marketing stuff.
But then the groundwork. You're getting ready to send people over to your page, except there's no listing there because the file was rejected and it's not available at that point.
Yeah, which is always the risk when doing stuff DIY. And we're all about, if you want to do it, like, figure it out. But it's just something to think about as far as a risk associated with that. For me, I don't like the formatting. I just let our team handle that. That's just what I do. I know there's other people that do that as well. I always make sure to have editing and formatting done, just so I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think about that.
Right. So I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. We have resources on formatting. We can maybe talk about that in a future date if there's interest in it. I'll link down below. We have a post on our blog about formatting, DIY formatting, what the difference between DIY and done for you formatting is, and then a couple of resources if you do want to approach it from a DIY standpoint. And we're happy, like I said, to support people who want to do that. And that's partly why we created this blog post. But thank you, Jordan, for getting back to the big picture. So one thing in terms of sequencing, like you mentioned, you have a file and you're like, okay, so I'm gonna put it up there. My big launch day is Friday, and it's Thursday, at 8 o'clock at night. So no problem, right? Just put it up and it's on there. No, it's not necessarily on there. It's not necessarily there in time. So Kindle ostensibly allows, I think they say 24 to 36 hours or something, or maybe it's 12 to 36 hours for.
They actually say up to 72.
Okay, so up to 72 hours.
Or 48. It's pretty good, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that's something to think about in terms of sequencing. You're like, okay, I want my book live on Friday. I have to have it up there. I can't put it up on Thursday night and expect that it will be there. Maybe it will. We've definitely seen plenty of examples where Amazon will review a file and then generate the listing within 8 to 12 hours, 16 hours, something like that. So
that's pretty common.
Yeah, but you don't know, and especially if you're doing it for the first time and you've never uploaded before, particularly if you have issues with your account. Maybe you get up there and you're ready to upload, except your KDP account, you just realize you don't have your bank account information. So they're not going to let you make anything available to begin with. You don't have your tax ID information. So in terms of thinking about that, sequencing, get all those ducks lined up ahead of time, and then give yourself several days. So one of the things that we often recommend is you have a soft launch. So have everything up there, have it up maybe a week ahead of time, maybe, at least several days ahead of time, so that when traffic goes over there, they can actually purchase it. Once you do that, once you have it up for your soft launch, go ahead and purchase it yourself and then look at it on your own device. Now, if you're formatting it yourself and you're kind of looking at it through the Kindle app or whatever other applications that you might be kind of test reading it with, hopefully it's going to look good and render well and be what you expect. But you want to make sure that the file that you download is actually going to be what you expect. And so it's a good idea to go ahead and purchase it. Make sure you have no issues transmitting it. Make sure that you have no issues in viewing it, and that it actually looks, again, the way that you expect it to look, because you don't want to, as Jordan mentioned, have a ton of folks coming over. You've built up some excitement. You're cashing in all of your chips and all of your social contacts, and you're like, hey, everybody, I really need you to come over. Friday morning and buy this book. And people do, except there's no listing there. There's no book to buy, or the book that they buy is damaged, or not damaged, but is not formatted correctly, or there's some issue there. You might realize, oh crap, I accidentally repeated chapter 5 and I sent 1,000 people over. And now they've all downloaded a copy with 2 chapter 5s and no chapter 6. And oh my God, I feel like an idiot. And how am I ever going to recover from this? True story, that happened once in the early days with one of Matt's books. I don't think it was chapter 5, but somewhere in there was some formatting issue.
It happens.
Right. And you're stuck waiting. Amazon is going to wait, that 8, 12, 16, maybe up to 72 hours before they can get a new file up there. Even if you notice it immediately, you click publish and immediately you're like, oh crap, that's the wrong one. Too bad. Now you're in that purgatory and you're waiting for Amazon to produce to review that book, to either approve it or reject it. And in either case, re-upload the corrected file. So you want to be mindful of all these things. And these are, again, sort of in the weeds, but details that if you're a first time author, if you're trying to approach this on your own, you want to have in mind. You don't want to have unexpected surprises at the 11th hour when you already have the stress and maybe not even, bad stress, but excitement, the positive, the eustress of, hey, this is cool. Everybody's getting to see my book. I put a ton of heart and energy and soul into it and everybody's ready to support me. Oh crap. Now there's something else that I wasn't expecting that I have to deal with.
Yeah. 2 things I want to mention with that, Rob. I think the first thing is very important. Like, these things are going to happen. You're gonna make these kind of mistakes at some point. And maybe not your first book. Maybe you get your first book perfect. Well, eventually, there's going to be an issue with that. Hopefully not a repeated chapter. I mean, that's a pretty big one. At least read through your book and, make sure you're not, copy pasting and doubling the size of your book or something like that.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
But as far as if you think about errors and proofread errors, there's always going to be errors within the book. So don't beat yourself up over that. The other thing I wanted to mention as far as big picture goes. So we'll jump back real quick.
Cool.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
You have the editing and formatting done. This is where you want, once you have your final files, then you want to give yourself time to market your book. We see a lot of authors do this, and I've struggled with this myself. I finished the book. I want to be done with it. I've edited this thing. I've read it tons of times myself. I want to be done with it. But that's when you really need to jump in to the marketing from there. So we always recommend here at Archangel Inc. 30 days at least from what you get when you get your final files back. The tendency and the desire is always to push that limit. And I get it. You get to the point where like I said, you're just done. You're done with looking at the book. You're done with figuring that out. But
and you're excited. You have the final files in your hand. You're like,
I have them.
It's for you, for all those readers. Yes, I will take your money. Please, give me your money. Here are the files. Here's the great, amazing story that you've been waiting for forever.
Yeah.
But don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Plan a launch day for at least 30 days from there. You can upload your paperback pretty much as soon as you get your files. That's fine. You can even upload and go as far as almost publishing your book too. That's another thing I would recommend for people to do, just so you can get experience with that. Just so what Rob mentioned earlier doesn't happen. You make sure you have your bank account information in there. You make sure that you know what you're, obviously, hopefully you have a final title. Making sure your book description is what you want it to look like. You have your keywords in there, all of that stuff. That stuff you may forget to think about until you go and upload the book. You don't want to be thinking about that right before. You want to have that all set.
Right.
And if you're giving yourself that extra time, you allow that cushion time to, give you time to, I totally forgot about keywords. Okay, cool. I have a couple days. I can go in and do some research. And that stuff's really important as far as marketing goes. You really need to consider that. So it's not an afterthought.
Right. So you don't want to go in willy-nilly, again at 10 o'clock the night before that you're planning to launch and I need categories or, I need a book description. Well, that's cool. I guess I'll just put something up there. And there are so many books out there, folks. If you browse around on Amazon, you look for titles, especially if you see anything that's kind of self-published and you see book descriptions that are not formatted. It's one big sentence, it looks like, or even, there might be a paragraph break or 2 in there, but there's no bullet points, there's no headers, there's nothing to differentiate it. There's nothing that speaks the language of kind of sales copy. The idea when you're doing sales copy, and in this case, book description specifically, you want to catch the reader's attention, and you want them to read that first sentence and want to read the next sentence. And then from the next sentence, the purpose of that second sentence is to read the next sentence, and so on, all the way down the line, so that they're engaged the whole way, and they absorb all of the information that you're putting out there. You want them to be excited about it. You want them to leave knowing what this book is going to do for them. You want them to leave with a sense of, oh, well, I had this objection, but they've actually already addressed that objection, and there is, I don't know if this book is for me. Oh, wait, they're saying explicitly, this book is exactly for me. You're trying to accomplish all those things in your book description. And again, you don't want this to be an afterthought, that you're typing away at, 10 o'clock at night and you're like, whatever, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Because you're not going to maximize all that traffic. You're not going to maximize all of that energy that you're putting into sending people over. And, because again, with Amazon, if you send all those people over, let's say you're really effective and you have a huge social network, and everybody who says that they're going to go over to your book page and buy it actually does, Amazon's going to say, hey, cool, there's a bunch of folks going over this page, and basically everybody who's going over there is buying it. Let's put this page in front of the eyes of somebody else who maybe has never heard of it, who maybe just has a vaguely similar, browsing history. And those people you want to be able to speak to as well. They don't necessarily know you. So if you have a lackluster book description, even if your friends and family and all of your followers are willing to overlook that, the Joe Smith who's browsing on Amazon, they're not necessarily going to do that. So you have to be able to take advantage of whatever organic traffic that Amazon wants to send your way and capitalize on those efforts of putting your sales copy and your sales page together well.
Yeah, and that building that base and building the base level marketing is probably some of the most important marketing you're going to do. Some people think of marketing just as sending traffic to Amazon's page, and now obviously it's a huge part of it, and you can do that through Amazon ads or Facebook ads or just getting sending an email to your newsletter, whatever you're going to do to send traffic to Amazon's page. You got to make sure and do the best you can to make that page as good as you can.
Right.
Obviously, professional book cover, that's an important part of launch sequencing. Right. Getting a title that is going to hook people and also answer, already answering whatever objections they might have in their mind, and then writing, just a sales copy that's going to convert. Mm-hmm. And that's just it's so important. It's some of them, like, as far as spending your time on marketing, so important.
Right. So again, big picture now, if you're thinking about sending traffic over, there are two components to that, right? Like in terms of generating sales, there's the traffic that you send over and then your conversion rate. So what you're talking about in terms of maximizing your sales page is enhancing and getting as much out of that conversion rate as you can, because it doesn't matter if you send 1 million people over to your page, but it looks shoddy and half-hearted and poorly put together, and you get one sale out of those 1 million, versus if you send 100 people over to your page, but 50 of them actually buy it. That the traffic itself is one component of it, but like you said, sometimes people think about the marketing in terms of the traffic only, and not necessarily in terms of all of the copy and what you can do to maximize that conversion rate. So that's a big part of that launch stuff that we offer, but that people should be thinking about when they're organizing all of this for themselves.
Yeah, and this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but I did want to mention this. I was thinking about something that I know some authors have had a lot of success with Amazon ads, and other authors not. I've had when I first started, it was very difficult for me to see any conversions with those and to really work them. But I love Amazon ads, and I think one of the hidden reasons, and one of their hidden secrets, is that when you're using Amazon ads, it's the first time within Amazon that you can see what your conversion rate is. For the most part, Amazon they will not tell you how many people visited your page,
right?
In general. But when you're doing Amazon ads, you can see that. You can see directly and say, hey, I had 100 clicks to my page. No one purchased my book. Either I'm hitting completely the wrong keywords, or something is wrong with the sales copy, or it's just not an interesting book. There's not much you can do about that after the fact, but you can always tweak your sales copy and, really try to put yourself in the mind of people who are going there. There's always little tweaks you can do. You can, you can't really run like A/B tests on Amazon, but you can at least tweak it and try different things. And it's worth it to be able to see that right off the bat, because if you think about that, okay, I had 100 of my own, you're hoping that you're going to get people from outside of, Amazon ads specifically, and then your own people as well. So if you start in that realm of, okay, I'm going to send some of my own traffic there through Amazon, you can take that time and build that. Like I said, that's a more in the weeds thing, but it's an important part of that sequencing too, because it just helps you, maximize the page.
Right. Cool. So, okay. Was there anything else before we go on and talk about audio books and that's a part of sequencing that you want to share about, print or digital editions for the moment?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
We can go into that.
Yeah. So audiobooks, one of the things we talked about in a previous Archangel Inc. Live was trying to make all of your books available at one time, all editions. So a print edition, a digital edition, and an audio edition. And talk about that, if you would, Jordan. Why would you do that for one? And and then we can talk about what it would take to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it's something we talked. Yeah, we've been mentioning this a little bit in our Archangel Inc. Live number 2. It just, whether you want to use ACX or Findaway voices. So for more detail on that, you can listen to that one. But as far as sequencing goes, what you should do, I put my books through ACX, which again is Amazon's company that they push their books to Audible, and it's Audiobook Creation Exchange. That's ACX. So I put my books through there. But the thing as far as timing goes, you need to have either a paperback edition or a Kindle pre-order, some kind of listing within Amazon already to be able to even start your audiobook process. And this is all considering the fact that you need to have, again, final files of your book, but then final audiobook files too. So that's really a timing and potentially editing and getting all that together issue as well.
Right.
Because, if you have a little bit more leeway if you're doing it yourself. And again, I think we mentioned this last week as well. I was able to record my book at the same time that Archangel Inc. was creating the formatting copies. I was able to do that simultaneously because I already had my final version.
Right.
So if you have your final version of the book, you can either get someone start it on ACX for you. You can talk a little bit more about, Rob, if you want, about the different levels of audiobook production and what you can choose to do. But as soon as you get your final files, you need to submit it to ACX, and then there's a time frame there. I think they say up to 3 or 4 weeks. It's usually faster. I think my last one went up in probably like 10 days. I think it was pretty quick.
Cool.
But you don't want to count on that happening, because if you could submit it and then 10 to 14 days later, they come back, could potentially be a problem. You have to go in and fix that. And then it's going to be another 10 to 14 days. So as far as getting all the versions up, it does get a little bit complicated, but you start with either a Kindle pre-order or a paperback version of your book, and then you claim your book, and then you can submit your audio files. But again, that depends on having those finished files ready to go, submitting. And if you do that, you can time it so you're having an actual launch day, 30 days after that final files or close.
Right. So with ACX, let's say it's going to take the full 3 to 4 weeks. You can think about that as your time, your window for sequencing and for planning that launch. So at that point, you're assuming, okay, I've got all those files everything is done. The audio files are complete. The proofing is complete. The digital and print editions are all there. Everything's waiting in the wings. And now, at this stage, this is kind of where you do a lot of your work with folks. This is where you're generating that excitement. You're trying to get some advanced review copies out there, trying to generate some buzz. You're starting to look into potential guest podcast, guest blogs, guest video appearances, all these things that you can do so that, when that 3 to 4 week window or whatever out, let's say 30 days out from when you have all that in hand, there's already people who are primed and ready to go and ready to talk about this material, ready to have those reviews, ready to post that podcast that they recorded with you, ready to, invite you on for a radio spot potentially, or a live stream or something. So you don't have to think about this as wasted time where, okay, I'm not I'm just kind of sitting on my hands, and now I have all this done. I've invested all this money, and I can't even get any sales yet. That's really the time where you're kind of priming the pump and getting things ready, and kind of generating some of that buzz that's going to help when you do have that splash, that you actually have a splash, and not a a smaller than expected launch for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely that's the time to hustle. You got the book done. We always say, like, yeah, you got the book done. Now it's time to start. You got that. You got the marketing end to go, and it's marketing's tough. Marketing is a complicated process. Things are always changing on Amazon. But I think the thing that always rings true is the people that really hustle will eventually win and figure it out. Either they're going to figure it out through just a sheer amount of effort, or you're eventually, hopefully, going to get lucky. So
right. Yeah, you know what? I'm trying to think. There's some quote, anyway. I can't remember it now. But the idea was, luck is preparation plus opportunity or something.
There you go. So, yeah, that's good.
So you want to have all of that preparation done and maximize your chance that you can get lucky. There's another video I have about the 10-year overnight success. And it's like, it looks like, when such and such company or such and such individual kind of blows up, and all of a sudden they're, everywhere, and everybody knows about them, and they're making lots of money, and their business is booming. It's like, wow, that just happened in no time at all. It's like, it seemed like 3 months ago, nobody knew who you were. And now, you're making 6, 7, 8 figures, whatever. It's like, yeah, but there's also 10 years of work behind there that you didn't.
Yeah, look at all I did.
Right, exactly. It's like, yeah, we're not talking about the fact that I recorded, 140 podcasts over the last several years, and the first, year of them, I was lucky if I got 10 or 15, downloads on each of them. Nobody's talking about all the blog posts that I have up there that, languished and got, 5 comments among 50 blog posts, or any of that, because it's all happening in time behind the scenes. And then when anybody notices and pays attention, that's when the success seemingly happens overnight. But okay, so in terms of Audible Creation Exchange, ACX, you mentioned a couple of different tiers. Most of what the authors that we work with are doing is they own the rights to their audio material. Audible does offer you the opportunity to go on a royalty share with a narrator, so you can solicit samples, see if anybody is interested in producing the book for you in exchange for 50% of the royalties that you earn on it.
And I did that for my first book, Rob. I don't know if you knew that, but the whole process was easy. It was simple. Mm-hmm. It's still in effect today. That's for my book, The Action Diet. The guy's name was Justin Owens. Really, really great guy. Really good to work with. I was just like, let's figure this out. Hey, I can get a free audiobook done, royalty share.
Right.
Let's do this. And it was pretty easy, good process. ACX makes it very. You feel totally good doing it, as far as like signing away. They make it very clear to you what you're doing.
Right.
It's definitely something to consider, for some people, depending on your situation.
Right. Yeah. So it allows you to do it without any upfront investment, which is really nice. And the hope is that you have some market potential there, and that you find somebody who sees it, who believes in it, and or they are building up their catalog, and they're willing to take a chance on it. And who knows what it's going to look like, but it's a good opportunity for them. And you guys, come to have a good rapport in your interactions. And one thing to consider, though, about that is you do need to have an exclusive arrangement with ACX in order to make that happen.
Yes.
So you cannot make it available on Findaway Voices or some of these other platforms. You also can't make it available on your own website. You can't make it available as a free opt-in, for a video seminar that you're doing, or some sort of other marketing technique or marketing promo or something that you're putting together. So that's just something to consider. Obviously, that's what we do. We're not. We don't do a ton of the royalty share. I know, Jordan, you've done a little bit of that, or you're starting to get into that. Is that right?
Yep.
Cool. So, that's a way for you to build up your catalog, build in some additional revenue streams, and then also develop relationships with some of these
Yeah,
authors,
it's cool.
and help them make something available in a platform that they maybe weren't even thinking about, and you exchange your sweat equity for a stake in their success, and they give you a stake in their potential future success, and give you at no out of pocket cost to them. So there's a cool opportunity there,
Yeah.
but again, that's just something to consider when you're doing your audio book. Obviously, if you do it yourself, or if you own the rights, if you commission us or somebody else, a narrator, independently, then you can do all of those different things. You can make it available as a free opt-in. You can bundle it with all of the material that you've ever done. You've got a bunch of seminars and webcasts that you're putting together, and you want to have some big offering, and you're like, hey, you also get a copy of my audiobook, and you also get a digital copy of this other thing that I'm doing, and all of this as a way to incentivize it. So
So that was my question. So is that the main difference between the royalty share? And so if I record it myself,
Mhm.
I don't have to give, I thought I still had to give rights over to Audible.
You have the option to go exclusive or non-exclusive.
The option. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
I remember kind of seeing that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
with the exclusive option, you get a slightly higher percentage of the royalties, and you make it available for a 7-year term. At least it was 7 years last I checked. And so that means that you will not be able to sell it in any other channels on your own, or with other distribution channels that may arise, or in libraries or academic institutions or anything like that. It belongs to Audible, to ACX. And so you're only going to be able to find it as a consumer on audible.com, on amazon.com, and the iTunes store.
Cool.
So that's, that there's an advantage to that in a way, because that's right now where most of the sales are happening in the audiobook world. But over time, there's going to be more competition. Again, Find a Way is a cool option, and there are other platforms out there. There are other things that you might want to do with it at some point. Some authors increasingly, particularly if they have niche topics and really high value content, they're not selling their books for $5 or $10 or even $20 on Amazon. Maybe they're selling it exclusively through their site for $50, for $100, and you might want to sell your audio edition exclusively on your site, and have control of all of that distribution. You might want to be able to know everybody who's purchasing it, so you have their email address, and you can build a relationship. You can deepen a relationship with them, bring them into your email funnel and your sales funnel, and get them oriented. And if they're part of your core audience, now you have access to those folks in a way that you don't if they purchase it from audible.com. Or from amazon.com.
Yep.
Amazon is very opaque about what information they give you about who purchases your book. They just tell you basically this number of units were purchased, at this royalty rate, and here's your check. And so it's nice, it's all done for you, but you don't have access to all of that additional data, which can be really helpful for entrepreneurs and people who are capable of maximizing that information.
Yeah, it's something great to consider as far as looking towards the future, of your own publishing and your own entrepreneur endeavors, is thinking about, putting something on your website that is maybe $40, maybe it's a $40 PDF download. If you have that trust, people will be willing to spend that. There are people out there that will see that, and I've even seen things. I'm like, that's exclusive. I can't get that anywhere else.
Right.
I don't care if it's $50. Like, I want that, and then
Right.
it's something to consider, because then you get that purchase and you get their information too. It's kind of a win-win situation, but you're building that trust with them. So
right, exactly. So it's very advantageous. Yeah, there's a lot of potential, and it could be very advantageous. The trade-off is this: you have to have built that trust enough that they're willing to go on your website, give you their credit card information, and do this, and spend that more premium price for whatever it is that you're offering, as opposed to Amazon. It's very easy. Most of us have Amazon accounts already, and just click buy now. It's already linked up. You trust Amazon, for the most part, hopefully. and you know that your information is not likely to be compromised. You're not putting it on some random site that could be phishing for data or selling your information
Yep.
or compromising your security or anything like that. And Amazon's really good at tech support. Amazon's really good at refunds if you need it. So all of that
Yep.
stuff is taken care of. That's the trade-off with Amazon. The opposite, or the other side of that is, you're competing on price against millions and millions of other people, and you don't have access to that information. So again, if you have a niche topic, if you have something that's highly specialized and that you're trying to build your tribe around, then Amazon may or may not be your best option. So
Yep.
at some point, this is something we're working on for an upcoming blog post. But we can talk about the general principles behind how to set up your business, and again, there are a million different ways to do that. But generally, how to think about your content creation. Something free or low cost to kind of be a lead magnet and get people interested. Something moderately priced to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about and that you're worth following. Something higher priced, like you said, that $40, $50, $100 offering for people who have kind of come on board and they are really starting to know, like, and trust you, and they want to get some more information, more exclusive content, and go a little bit deeper. And then something potentially very more time intensive, individualized coaching, speaking events, something in person, or mastermind groups or something like that, where you're getting more customized attention. And it's not as scalable. It's not like a product that you can buy, but it's something that you only need, 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 of people buying those at, a 3 or 4, or even 5-figure price point to build a really significant revenue stream. And I think that would be a fun topic if you're up for it, Jordan, to
I think we could talk a lot about that.
Yeah, and maybe give some different examples, different industries, different things that people are doing currently, so you can kind of see how it all shapes up. But yeah, like we've been saying, we can leave a little bit in the tank for the future. Was there anything?
We both have a lot to say, so I'm not too worried about that.
Right on. So, was there anything else that you wanted to share? Anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of sequencing? This is kind of a 101 or maybe a 201. There's a little bit of the weeds in there, but big enough picture that hopefully it'll be helpful for people who've never experienced this before. Anything else that you want to put out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to share. I mean, I use a tool called Trello. Some of you may have heard of that. I use it for myself for all kinds of different projects that I have going on. I use it for to-do lists and all that stuff. I use it for everything. I'm kind of obsessed with it. Rob and Christy have heard too much about it. Christy is our publishing coordinator. They said, Jordan, please stop talking about Trello. But I think it's one of the best tools as far as project management. And if you're thinking launch sequencing, it's a fantastic tool. Some of you may have downloaded my book Launch Gladiator, that I wrote beginning of 2018.
We'll include a link to how to download that in the show notes afterward. Yeah,
and in there, I do have a link to and we can add this link in there as well, Rob. But and I'll try to remember to do that for you guys. But it's a link to a sample board that I have up as far as launch goes, where you can kind of follow along and hopefully not miss any of the major steps. You'll have to add in some of your own marketing strategies, of course, and what you plan to do. But it's a great way to keep everything organized and keep track of all the moving pieces, because it's a lot. It's a lot to consider. And then you can add dates, and you can even look at a calendar view as well, which is pretty cool. And figure out your timing. Okay, I need to have my book uploaded by October 1st so that I can launch on November 1st. But then all the things you need to do before that to have everything ready to go as well. But
yep. Cool. And so one other resource, thank you, Jordan, by the way, for sharing that. And I think it would be really helpful. And at some point I will probably try and trace my way back in and take more advantage of it. But, if I were,
it's fun.
And if I were an author, if I had a different role in terms of, what responsibilities I had and things that I were managing, I think this could be really helpful. And I like that the one that you have, is kind of, it sounds like it's preset and pre-sorted with some different categories and things to think about. So that's super cool. One other resource that I want to mention, actually, this was something that you put together years ago. I don't know if you still have it online, and you can tell me, but it was your sort of reverse engineering of all of the time and steps that it took to put your book together. I think it was from like outline all the way up to writing, and then the different things that happen. So do you remember the post that I'm talking about? I think that was on your
Yeah, I'm
personal.
popping on real quick just because I think it's still on my website. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We can link to that as well.
Yeah.
If it's still on there, I'm looking it up real quick because
Yeah.
that's been a while.
Right. So, and that was one of the reasons. Well, what's one of the things I saw of Jordan's initially when he came to us, and after you had worked on, I think, the first book, The Action Diet. Maybe that was the you did that cover with us, and
Yep.
and then you kind of said, "Hey, I'm putting this together, and I'm mentioning Archangel Inc. and love for you to have a look if you're willing." And I really appreciated that it was thoughtful, it was coherent, it was systematic. Again, it was sort of reverse engineered back. Like, okay, well, here are the different steps, and maybe some things that I needed to think about, or if you're in this position that you ought to be thinking about. So super cool.
I had forgotten that was one of the first things I sent you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that was pretty neat, and probably some of it's dated, and not all as current as newer information that we have out there on our blog or on Jordan's website. But
But yeah, as far as like most of the sequencing goes, yeah, if you want to, I'm from what I'm remembering of it was a while ago, but yeah, it does include that writing and all of that stuff too, the editing, and maybe how long is that going to take? I mean, everything's up in the air as far as like when you can turn stuff around, but that like again, this is what the reason Rob and I wanted to talk about this today is because it is it's a very difficult issue as a first time author to. Hey, I have a book. I want to finish all this out. I mean, there's always going to be more questions that are going to come up, than we could possibly answer, or that you could probably remember, because I wouldn't remember, all the individual details and the pieces. But it is definitely something to consider before, launch date.
right. So like there's the adage is like we have the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns, right? So what you need to do, and maybe there are certain things that you're like, okay, well, I know I need to edit my book and format, and that's cool. The known unknowns, well, I don't know how to edit my book, or I don't know how to format my book, but that's fine, I can do that. The unknown unknowns is, oh, I didn't realize that I needed to have all my tax ID information up there before I upload, or I didn't know that it's going to take me 12 to 72 hours to make a book available. Oh, I didn't know that I have to wait to have a listing before I can even claim a book on Audible to make an audiobook edition for. So all of those things, we're trying to reduce the number of unknown unknowns and lay it out there, and at the same time walk that delicate line where we're not overwhelming you with information. We're not making it so that it's totally inaccessible and overwhelming and difficult to keep up with. So we're trying to do that, and again, that's why we do what we do. That's why the marketing and book launch coaching exists. That's why Archangel Inc. as a whole exists, because there are a lot of those little steps that you may love to do on your own, and you may find that you're really great at it and excel in it. Or you may find that you absolutely don't want to do that, but you still want to be a published author, and you still want to give yourself the best chance of success. That's what we try to do. So cover all of those bases and guide you along the way to make it smoother, make it easier, so that when you have questions, you're like, hey, I read this thing. There's this article, and what do you think? Should I be doing X or should I be doing Y? We can say with some experience and insight from having done this for a while, yeah, that's definitely a great idea, or don't worry about that. That's nonsense or whatever.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
I have run out of things.
No, I got you. All right, everybody. So thanks for watching. Thank you, Jordan, for joining once again for Archangel Inc. number 3. As always, like, comment, share. Let us know if there are things that you want us to talk about. We have ideas, we have topics and things that we can chat about. But if there are things in particular that are pressing, that are burning, that you just need to know the answer for, let us know, and we will do our best to provide that.
Yep.
Cool. All right, everybody. Have a good night, and I will catch you all next time. Thanks, Jordan.
Yep. See you guys.